Let's get down to business to defeat the Huns. Why'd they send me daughters
when I asked
for sons? You're the saddest bunch I've ever met.
That we're all women here.
Back up, get up, somehow I'll make a man out of you.
So today we're talking about authentic femininity.
All right.
No, we're not.
Welcome, everybody. Super pumped to be here. You're listening to Honest to God on AM 1160, The Quest, Atlanta's Catholic radio. We're going to see whether or not that intro makes it off the cutting room floor or not, but it is fitting because today we are going to be talking about idols. But before we do so, we're going to begin as we do all things with a prayer. And because the last time we had a Byzantine come on here and pray, he killed it. We're going to ask Hannah Fuchko.
No.
Camera's on you, Hannah.
It's going to be like a Hail Mary. I hope not that I love Mary. I love Mary. But I don't have a Byzantine prayer that I'm just going to like pull out and
Just rock
say.
it. Just for,
Well, then pull out a Byzantine
just
prayer.
Like, go.
I mean, I could.
Just Protestant impromptu. That's good. They got that one right.
Okay, I'm just going to actually just speak from the heart. Okay.
Yeah.
Dear Lord.
And then the Father, Son, Holy
Spirit.
Arian heretic. Deny the divinity of Jesus. All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead,
Okay.
Hannah. Whenever you're ready.
To restart the prayer now. Dear Lord, please just bless our hearts and our minds and our lips so that what we say may reach not just Catholics, but anyone who's looking for you and your word to touch them and bring them closer to you. Amen.
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 Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. That was
That was a
killer,
good prayer.
Hannah. That was really good.
That's a lot of pressure.
You heard it here. Hannah Fuchko is our official. Sorry, no last names. Hannah is our official prayer every time she's on from now on. That was really good. Really good. We need that from the heart prayer. I always do that too. I always revert back to like a Hail Mary at the end or something.
Yeah, and I love the Hail Marys. Like, they're so good, and I love praying the rosary. But I feel like sometimes like saying it really is just like, oh, it's like that prayer. So I want something where people can really understand like what I want in that moment.
Well, even with the rosary, and I talk to my kids a lot about this. This has nothing to do with what the show's about. But even with the rosary, the idea is you're saying these rote prayers, but you're not supposed to be focusing on the prayers. You're supposed to be focusing on the mysteries. Think about, you're supposed to be actually praying, and that's just sort of a way to keep the tempo, and it's good, right? You're asking Mary to pray for us and all of these things, but you really are supposed to be dwelling on the mysteries themselves.
Yeah, like think about why so much of our Mass has like parts of the Bible just like put in it, and why we say that. It's because we're supposed to be understanding God's word. We're not just supposed to be like chanting something or saying something for the sake of the fact that God likes it. You know,
Right.
You're supposed to understand it and internalize it.
Yeah, there's what does Jesus say? And you'll hear this from Protestants a lot as a criticism of the rosary about like the people who will just yell prayers in the street corner. They just repeat. They do just repetitive prayer over and over and over again. And it's almost like, and I don't remember the exact verse, but it seems like it's a criticism of these people who are saying, no, just by doing this, just by checking this box, I'm doing a thing that God likes, therefore it's good. And that's not what the rosary is. It's not just like offering prayers to God the way you would offer turtle doves in the temple or something to God, right? You're actually supposed to be moving deeper beyond just the words that you're saying.
Something I love about like the rosary and stuff like that is like, for the same reason that I think like people misuse it as just like that basic prayer is also one of the reasons I feel like it is like such a common prayer is because it's like almost like a comfort space, which is I feel like what Mother Mary is supposed to be for us. It's supposed to be that like home feeling. So I feel like when you say the rosary, you just feel like you feel Catholic, if that makes sense. So.
A buddy of mine told me, and this has sort of changed how we pray with our children at the house. I'm sure I've said this on this show before. I've said it on air a lot of times, but it used to be the most frustrating part of my whole day was praying the rosary with my kids at the end of the day. And those of you who are from big families, like you know, or even it doesn't matter if you're a big family, if you've ever been a child and you prayed the rosary, you would experience this. But it was just so frustrating. You just want everybody to just shut up. And I would say that. I would say horrible things. You know, I would yell at my children during the rosary to sit down and be quiet. But a buddy of mine said, no, the rosary is supposed to be like a warm hearth that your family can gather around. And he said, you know what? If your 4-year-old wants to scribble on a piece of paper the whole time, or they need to get up to go pee 1,000 times or whatever, that's fine. Don't force them to do it. But as long as you make it this like warm, loving thing, they'll come in and it works great. Now, even if I, like Henry will say, can I finish playing with my whatever? I'll say, sure, buddy. But he comes in pretty quickly and just kind of sits there with us. And it's really cool.
The rosary is so comforting. We did it as a family too. We always did it at night. And so to this day, if I when I start to pray the rosary, I get super tired.
Yeah.
I'm just like, Hail Mary, full of grace. But I feel like that's such a good like transition from going from Mary. You know, that's one thing that a lot of Protestants misconceive about the Catholic Church is that we idolize Mary, or we have statues of her and they're like, that's an idol. Y'all are worshiping idols. But I feel like, hopefully within this discussion, we can kind of clarify a lot of those misconceptions.
Freaking Grace coming
Yeah.
in with a home run segue.
I get all
about
the
that.
red string is everywhere.
Speaking of idols, that's what we're talking about today.
No way.
I know, isn't that crazy? Isn't that amazing?
No
we
one
actually
told
melted
us.
down a golden calf from a bunch of these ladies' earrings, and we have it under the desk right now, though.
So
the table.
we didn't do that.
No.
We're gonna pull up in a minute, but we're not gonna worship it because we're not supposed to do that. I read that somewhere.
Don't remember where, but
All right, so while we are talking about idols, and I'm sure that I'm butchering the Exodus story here, but this is what I've always thought about that story with the golden calf, right? Have you ever seen Mount Sinai? You ever seen a picture of Mount Sinai?
I've seen mountains before.
Yeah.
I bet they're
It's
similar.
like those. It's like those, but it's not that big.
Oh,
it's a small mountain.
And I'm sure that there's a time frame that we're given that it takes Moses to walk up there, and then he spends a couple days with God or whatever. But it's not that big, and it doesn't seem like it would take that long to get up and down Mount Sinai.
Okay.
Which means if you're sitting there hanging out, you're watching Moses talk to Aaron, and Moses is like, "All right, guys, I got to go up this mountain to talk to God." Right? You remember how last weekend, God parted the sea and the fire tornado, that God. Remember the plagues in Egypt? Very real God that all of you have seen him do wondrous miracles. That God. You know, that guy who rains down manna from heaven for us every night and sends the quails for us to eat and all that?
Yeah,
that
yeah,
guy.
him.
You know him, right? Okay. I'm going to go talk to that guy who's definitely real, and you've all seen him. You all believe in him? Yes. Okay, and he really hates idols. So whatever you do, don't do anything stupid while I'm gone. They're like, got it. It's like, okay, I'll be right back. Just chill. I feel like with the time it would take him to get up and get back down the mountain, Aaron had to almost immediately turn around and say, all right, ladies, I need all your earrings. We're melting it all down. We're going to make a baby cow, and we're going to worship it. It just seems, it doesn't
And
make a whole
they
lot
all
of sense.
said,
Yeah. So
How do they have that many earrings? Was it, I mean, in the
There were
pictures,
thousands of people,
The cow
right?
was.
I mean, I'm sure it was more than
Millions.
earrings. I feel like they had.
They probably just
You
took
said
all their
jewelry, right?
possessions, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they make the calf from
How
molten
big
gold
was
with-
it?
Yeah, jewelry.
That makes me
Yeah.
think. Have
Did
you
they
ever seen
mention-
those videos where they put M&Ms in front of toddlers and don't eat this until I
Oh,
come
yeah.
back, and then they're on camera and they
Yeah.
walk away and the toddlers are immediately like,
Yeah.
that's what that makes me think of.
Well, we always make fun of the Jews in the Old Testament too, because they're just doing all these things that seem so dumb.
Yeah.
Right? They're always like, once again, you see God, you know God's there, and it's like, oh, come on, guys, you know God's real. Like, why would you do that? What a stupid thing to do. And I feel like we talk down to them, or at least I've done this before. I've been guilty of being like, what are these guys thinking? Until I realize that I am 1,000% that guy. I'm 1,000% that guy
Yeah.
that's like, all right, God, so you want me to do these things? Okay, yes. And if I don't, it's really bad for me? Yes. Okay. And I might enjoy it. Sin might be thrilling, but it's awful and it's rotting my soul? Yes. Got it. I'm going to sin. Like, I just feel like I'm doing the
Yeah.
exact same thing that
Yeah.
the Jews are doing over and over and over and over again in the Old Testament. So I think it's neat. It's good for me to remind myself how dumb I am and how it's not like those stories where it seems like these people are doing these irrational things. What we're calling like irrational and stupid is actually just called human nature. And we're all so
Yeah.
guilty of doing that all the time.
Yeah.
So
Concupiscence.
So idols, let's talk about them. Hopefully none of you have got golden calves at home.
No.
But we all struggle. Every person here, every person listening, every person alive, except for this one guy who was God and then we killed him, has struggled. Oh, and his mom. She didn't, I don't
Yeah.
think she dealt with this either, but has struggled with idol worship, right? And our idols look different for sure, right? I've never made a graven image that I've bowed down to in my life. But we all struggle with idol worship as human beings. It's part of our fallen nature. What do our idols look like right now? Hannah Fuchko went off earlier with a laundry list of idols.
Yeah.
You don't have to go, but
I mean, there's a lot to talk about, so I'm not going to go off my list that I did, but I'm going to pick one out and
No,
go on that.
unless you're uncomfortable, I want to hear about idols that you struggle with. I'll tell you the
Idols
ones
that I struggle
Yeah.
with. Okay, that I have to think about just a little bit.
Well, I don't want to talk about myself.
Well,
right now.
we haven't done our fun facts yet, have we?
Okay,
fine.
yeah, go
So
this
you
way
can
and
brainstorm those real quick.
Yeah, yeah.
While we go through.
All right, we're going to do our fun facts starting with Hannah.
Oh, okay.
To give you
that
more
makes
time to
sense.
think.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you. My fun fact. Okay, so when I was younger, I don't know who's seen My Fair Lady in this room. Okay.
absolutely.
You know the scene where they make her eat the marbles and say words to like perfect her pronunciation.
Right.
So my siblings were basically like, "You can't do that. Like, there's no way you could. Like prove it if you can." So I did. And I swallowed probably like 3 like good sized marbles.
Great. Sure.
And I think like after being upset about it for a while, not wanting to tell my mom, eventually I was like, I could die. So I
was a
did
good call.
tell my mom. And yeah,
You're here.
that is my
No,
fun fact,
not
and I
and
am
yeah.
here.
And then what happened? You have marbles in your stomach. at this
Yeah,
point.
and they, it's actually right there. No, my mom, she made sure that everything
It
was good
eventually-
on the track.
She
Yeah.
just
Moms are
waited?
incredible.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mama Mary.
All right.
Okay.
Great. Well, I wasn't sure the
Shout
end
out
it came out of.
to
Yeah.
shout out. I'll say her first name, but shout out to Cherie there.
Yeah.
she
Honestly,
has, she has 12 kids, and she didn't have time to be looking for marbles.
But Cherie did because
She probably lost hers looking for
That was
them.
good. That was a good one. This episode of Honest God is brought to you by Cherie.
Yep, and marbles.
Looking for marbles.
Cherie's marble.
Cherie's marbles. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Mackenzie, you're up. Let's change the topic to literally anything else.
Okay. My fun fact. So I did swim team growing up. And so every summer, honestly, this lasted not in the summer, like all year. So basically for 10 years, I just had like a circle of a tan mark or a tan
On your back?
on my back. I was just
Cool.
pale and then a circle of tan skin on my back.
You should
That
put
is
like
funny.
little googly eyes on it or something.
Yeah.
Like,
Every
like
time
that.
she swam?
No, I mean, like, she already got the circle. Now you just need the googly eyes.
Oh,
yeah.
Just stick them right on there and then draw a little,
Yeah.
little
For 10
Sharpie mouth.
years.
You know. All right.
Yeah.
It was good.
Thank you.
I mean, it's like a B- fun fact,
okay.
but
I'll take it. As long as I don't have to think of another
No.
one then.
Hannah had like that was like an A. It was like a solid A.
A tier.
fun fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'll let Cherie know.
Yeah. Cherie earned you that. So that can be a little bit of a a consolation prize for the marble search.
Yeah.
Annie.
I got a fact for you. Here you go. Gordon Ramsay actually cooked me dinner when I went to England. Yeah,
Excuse me.
No way.
Yeah.
Really? Why were you in England?
it's not true.
No.
Oh, Annie.
Annie, come on.
You lied to us.
Annie has never been on a plane.
I don't know. I don't have your whole life story. over
And
here.
the fact that she didn't just meet him, he made her a meal.
I thought maybe he was like a surprise chef at a restaurant on a school trip. I don't know.
I was immediately skeptical. She looks at me. She's like,
All right. So that doesn't count, Annie. What's your
That was
actual
a fun fact. Wasn't mine.
whose fun fact was
It's
it?
not even
I
a
don't know.
fact.
Producer Ben, that's up to you.
Back it up. Try again.
Okay, I'll try again.
No.
I went skydiving for my 18th birthday.
You've been
Ooh.
skydiving?
It's also not true.
Wait, Annie,
No,
come
she-
on.
We were
This is honest to God.
honest to God.
You can't be lying.
So difficult for me. I just feel like I'm failing as a friend because I'm not like backing you up here and being like, yeah, she did. I took the pictures. But at the same time, like,
Fine. I'm going to give Annie's fun fact.
Okay, good.
Annie broke a kid's wrist
Yes, she
at
did.
youth group
true.
one time. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Can I tell a story,
Chasing him.
please? Can I, I want to.
Yeah, but no names.
Okay, I'm not going to give the
Okay,
name.
yeah.
Let's call him Bob.
Let's call him. Yeah, okay, Bob.
Bob?
Yeah, Bob's
Bob.
Okay, so Bob and I were in youth group together. And we were playing. Have you ever played the tree game? And is that what the game was? I don't know what
Weren't
it
we
was.
just playing like capture the flag or
Oh,
something?
that's probably
It was this weird game that Sam came up with. Like
really
it's
Sam's
basically
fault.
like tag.
Okay.
Okay,
They were playing
some
tag.
version of tag, and I start running away, and Bob was trying to catch me, and I outran Bob because I'm super fast.
You're really fast.
And
Tiny, tiny legs.
what can I say?
Go
No.
really fast. Yeah.
And so Bob catches up, but right on my heels, and then trips over my heels and falls and breaks his wrist, and then had to get.
That's what I said. You broke his
But
wrist.
I didn't
Yeah.
do it. It wasn't like
No,
I
it was-
pushed him.
It was intentional. I
I
saw
feel like-
I saw it in your eyes the moment it happened.
That's
Yeah, no.
not very fun.
No, it's not. But it was at least it was a fact.
Not for Bob. Seemed like it was fun for you.
Grace.
Yes. Okay. My fun fact is kind of a fun fact for the whole group. I met Annie in 4th grade, Hannah in 5th grade, and Kenzie in 6th grade.
And they
And
all just
then-
celebrated their 40th birthday.
Yeah. Lifelong.
Love it.
Okay.
Are we really?
No, but now you're all in college together. That's
Yeah, lifelong
Yeah.
friends for sure. So
cool. Big
beautiful.
shout out to the UNG Catholic Center.
Yeah.
Hannah didn't come with us,
She's
but
come a couple times.
Yeah.
we love her
You
anyway.
should go. It was cool. I
Oh,
gave a
yeah,
talk
I've
there
been
not
to
so long
the-
ago.
I've been to the Catholic Center.
Were you there
I'm
when I
just
gave
not
a talk?
part of it. No.
Lots of controversial topics. Yeah, it was good.
Good stuff.
Sounds like fun.
Fun. All right,
great.
Hannah. Your idols. Let's talk about them.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I struggle to think of like a lot, but I thought of one which I feel like kind of bleeds into other things.
Sure.
So I would say I struggle with like like idolizing like my image in the sense of not like how I look. Like I don't really care about that as much. Well, I do care, but like ignore that.
Okay.
Anyway, but like with like me and my ability to like, I want people to see me as like a cool person and like, so like I feel like I idolized like making sure that I could do certain tricks or like being good at things. So like I feel like that became an idol for me. Like I had to make sure that if I was playing soccer, like I was being my best at it, or if I was doing something, like I had to be good at it, you know? So I would say like that was probably, and I feel like that's still a constant in my life. I also just like doing cool things, but
That's fair.
yeah.
You know, and I feel like that's probably something that everybody here could say we idolize in some way, right? I mean, self-perception, and you can call it vanity, you can call it pride, whatever, but that is like my biggest cross, 100%.
I think there's like a fine line you have to balance on of like wanting to do a bunch of cool things for the purpose of doing the cool things or for the purpose of people seeing you doing those cool things.
Right.
And that's something like we all have to like I in recent years have started to really like go to the gym, and I think I look a lot better now, but there's a fine line you kind of
think you
have
look
to,
great, Producer Ben.
thank you, John Ray. Fine line you have to toe of like being, I guess, vain in just wanting to look the best you can for the purpose of looking the best you can and showing off, or the purpose of looking the best you can to be the best person you can be. Like I'm a whole lot more confident in myself now, and I feel like I am a lot more healthy in like the things that I eat and to achieve that goal, but it has affected my life in a lot more ways than that.
Well, and it becomes an idol, right? When you start to realize that you're sacrificing things you should do for the
Right,
sake
yeah.
of this pursuit that is not an evil. A lot of idols are not evil, right, in and of themselves, but it's once they become idolized that it becomes an evil.
Yeah, and then I was gonna say, obviously I think about it after you asked me the question, but I would say probably like when it comes to like singers that I really like relate to, or like I like their message, I would feel like I idolize them in a certain way that like I'll let them get away with things that I wouldn't let like other people. Like
Wait, certain what? Oh, singers like
yeah.
celebrity.
Yeah, like if there's a singer who I like absolutely love, you know, or a celebrity crush or whatever, like if I saw them doing something that was like like if I saw one of my friends doing it, I'd probably be like, that's cringy, like don't do that. But if I see them do it, I'm like, go off, king, or like, you know, like so maybe I would say maybe that would be something.
Okay, no, that's really good. So what about you guys? Anybody? I mean, and you don't have to share something that you personally are struggling with if you're not comfortable doing that.
I think one thing that I struggle with idolizing is, I guess, just like the concept of comfort, whether it's like sleeping in or deciding to watch a TV show rather than do my work or have a little more time in prayer. But like, I think one thing that could kind of like define like, okay, or I guess something that could help you assess, like, do I have any idols in my life, is asking the question like, where do I spend my time? What occupies my mind? And like, what am I striving for? And those are like, answering those questions could definitely give you some clues into like where you might be
Can you
idolizing
say those
things.
questions again?
That's a great question. Okay, well,
Go
how
ahead
do I spend my time?
hit that back button a couple times, and you can hear those questions again.
Yeah, how do I spend my time? What am I striving for? And what was the other one? What consumes your thoughts? Yeah, that kind of ties into like, what are you striving for? But like, what's something that's kind of always on, what's on your mind? What is on your mind? Because it's obviously, there's many things that are going to occupy our mind and that we're going to, you know, put a lot of time into, whether it's school or work or different hobbies. And like, that doesn't mean that those things are bad, but kind of like Ben was saying, like keeping those things in check and like asking yourself, why am I doing these things? Is it for the right reasons? Am I giving glory to God through these things, or is it selfish?
Yeah, I feel like it's probably a lot more difficult those questions are more difficult to answer when you are in a position in life when you haven't like figured out and acted upon your vocation, right? Because as a guy who's married with kids, I know what my primary vocation is, right? And that's my spouse, right? I know what my secondary vocation is, that's my children, right? And so it's easy for me to look at a thing and say like, okay, am I keeping first things first? Am I concerned primarily with my salvation, my wife's salvation, my children's salvation, and all of that, as opposed to when you have not realized and acted upon a vocation yet, and you're not called to spend 90% of your time in prayer, right? I mean, and maybe somebody listening is, maybe one of you guys is going to end up being a religious sister one day or something. But chances are you're not called to spend 90% of your time in prayer. And so you have an abundance of time and distraction in a way that someone who has acted upon their vocation does not have. I can see why that would be more complicated. Mackenzie, what about you?
I think something that I kind of idolize would be, I don't know how to explain this, but like, I guess just opportunities or situations that I wasn't able, like that I'm not in, I guess, if that makes sense. Like say that they were going off and doing something.
Like FOMO.
Yeah, FOMO, but I guess so. But also even stuff that my friends aren't involved in. It's just like, if I see an opportunity and I'm like, oh, that's where I'm supposed to be right now, or like, that's perfect. And if I get that, then I'll be happy, or like, then that will satisfy whatever's inside or whatever.
Yeah.
But in reality, it's like, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's, it's fun to throw around cutesy lines like, our heart will not rest until it rests in Christ, right? And it's true. And that's what I was going to say. It's so incredibly true, but we chalk it up as just these things that, while we desperately try to fill ourselves with all these empty things that are themselves idols.
Yeah. With that, I wanted to get into a little bit, like, I know Ben just talked about it, but working out, because I know that's like such a big thing right now that people are like the gym culture. And so like, I mean, one of the things that's so interesting to me is how you can compare like gym to like almost like faith life or a community of like churchgoers, because it's like, one, you have like different levels of people who like work out. And it's like, you literally like, you put yourself in pain to become better at something, which is what we as Catholics love to do.
Totally.
And then it's like, you have like the people who are like fresh to the gym, and you have certain people who, because they're so like good at what they do, they look down on those people and make fun of them for doing it wrong. And then you have the people who are so good at what they do that they go down to their level and like, no, this is how you do it. Right. And I just thought that was an interesting parallel, but
that's a really, really interesting parallel.
Cool. But when it came to like the idolizing part of it, something that I realized like a lot of people, when it comes to like gym and like working out, like it's all about like how they look in the moment, and like, you know, they like right after this, like, oh, they have their pump, so they go take their pictures, and it's really become like, I know so many guys who are like, their whole story consists of posting like gym things and then being like, my girl left me, but I'm going to show her what she's missing, or like stuff like that. Yeah. It's so weird. And so like something I told myself when I like, I'm started going to the gym, which I'm in ROTC, so we have mandatory PT. So I'm not going to not be going to the gym. Right. Is what I can be excited about is, one, what I'm doing, like what I can make my body be able to do. So like, if I'm better at doing push-ups, then like I'm going to be able to do more activities that like I can do with my arms. I can't think of any off the bat. Sure. But like, you know what I'm saying?
You could be better at rock climbing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. Like that. Or I like tell myself like, look at where you started, not where you're at. Like, so those are the two things I tell myself, because I don't want to be focused on like how I am in the moment. Yeah, and it's a fight too, not to make all those things self-reflective, right? I can do more push-ups so that I can do more push-ups, so that I can show off how many push-ups I can do, or I can do more bicep curls so I can take better pictures of me doing bicep curls, and then my biceps will be bigger, so people will think I'm better, right? No, totally. I liked what you said earlier about the gym almost being like a religion, like there's a parallel there. Yeah. And I've said this before, but I think that we all, as human beings, right, have this deep desire for religion, right? Yeah. And we are going to find a religion. I don't care if you don't believe in God. I don't care if you don't believe in, you're going to find something that fills that void. And what I see happening a lot right now, I mean, we were just a couple of weeks from the midterms, is politics becomes somebody's religion, left or right, Republican or Democrat. I'm not pointing fingers at either side right now. Or fandom in some sports team becomes a religion, or fandom of some fantasy show or movie or something becomes a religion, because that's a good. And what the devil does with all idols, or pretty much all of them that I can think of, except for like literally worshiping, a statue to some old god or something, is it takes and it perverts a good. There's a little bit of truth in those in the goodness of those things, but then we pervert it, and all of a sudden it goes from being a thing that is good to an idol.
So you just said like it takes something that's true and it tweaks it, and that reminded me a lot of like the idol of social media and that kind of thing, because so much of what we see is fake or altered, and I think people can idolize whether it's like a lifestyle or just somebody else's life that looks picture perfect, but it's like you don't actually know what's going on behind the scenes, and all their pictures have filters, and they had makeup artists come in like 3 minutes before, so it's like it's easy to sit there scrolling on your phone and then just become like dissatisfied with your own life when it's like they might not even be satisfied with their life.
Well, and it's so easy to buy into it. Over the Thanksgiving break, my son, we went on a hunting trip up in Maryland, and he shot a very nice deer, right? And I'm a grown man with a 10-year-old son, and I'm proud of my son, but I caught myself like looking at different filters for the picture of my 10-year-old holding a deer. I was like, no, you're literally just doing that for vanity. You're literally just doing that so people will see that and be like, man, that looks great. I don't even have social media. It's just for me to show people on my cell phone like an idiot and trying to church it up or whatever. That's gross.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when it came to like the social media thing, so me and my friend were actually talking about this earlier, and something she brought up, she was like, well, like that really is present, and like you see that if there's like a group, like almost in group mentality, like when your Instagram or like your whatever's your social media becomes your idol, it's so obvious because you're gonna like you want to be perfect, so you're gonna go with that group like mentality but you're not gonna actually like hold on to those things. So like let's say you like there's like some company that like has done something that's like seen as atrocious, and everyone posts about it, like puts it on their story, like, oh, don't like get by from this company because yada yada. Everyone's posting it on their story, and it's like, you know, we're part of this movement together to get this company brought down. But for the two days that everyone's posting it, it's like all up in the air. But then the moment that people stop posting it, people aren't doing anything, and that is an idol, because it's like a mob mentality there that you're following. Are you going to do something about it? No, but you want to look like you are.
No, absolutely. I want to pick right back up with that here in a second, but right now we're going to have to take a quick break. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and we are back. You are listening to AM 1160, The Quest, Atlanta's Catholic Radio. This is Honest to God, continuing our international tour. We've been all over the world these past few months.
Got to Argentina.
We always
Greece
set
was
up
a good
the same one. What was good
Greece
stop?
was a good stop.
You like Greece?
Yeah.
Well, today we are in the historic city of Cleveland, Ohio. So
It's been a good adventure.
yeah, big shout out to Cleveland. We're there. Come on down and see
It's been really
us.
difficult to disassemble and reassemble the studio every single time it's like
Well, so a couple episodes ago when we were on the Acropolis, which was crazy that we got permission up there.
Yeah.
I really liked how they managed to position that big Quest banner behind you guys to be right in front of the Parthenon. Just so we didn't sully the
Just
shot
block it off.
with that.
Yeah.
And
I don't know how they did the Eiffel Tower though.
I was
That
gonna
was
the one
wild.
that we did in the Dead Sea.
Yeah,
That
like
one was
actually
crazy.
floating in the center of the
Yeah.
Dead Sea.
I like
but
the
we had all the
Arctic
camera
episode.
equipment, so you couldn't tell we were floating, and
Yeah.
it looked exactly like this.
That was crazy.
My favorite was Atlantis. I feel like we really hit it off with
I
the
didn't know that was real
Atlanteans.
until we actually went down there.
Yeah,
I
it was
did
just
that.
on the tour schedule. I didn't put it in.
That was cool.
Yeah.
That was really cool. So, Atlantis is a place where
how is he gonna do this? How is he gonna do this?
might visit. Aquaman is a superhero idolized by lots of young children.
Wow.
Speaking of idols, that's the topic that we're covering today.
No way.
John Henry actually went to school for segways.
I did.
He majored in it.
I graduated from Harvard for segways.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I have a diploma. It's
With a
behind
minor
this
in
curtain.
singing Disney
things we
songs.
stand
Yeah, I was
That's
gonna say
true.
not the vehicle,
Yeah,
not the vehicle, right?
Amazing.
But where we last picked up, where we last dropped off, you were talking, Hannah, about social media in particular. And I loved what you were saying about like all the hashtag movements, right? Where people will, instead of actually doing things that matter, just slap up a Ukrainian flag or a black square or a filter on their Instagram about boycott so-and-so or whatever it is on everything. And I think that goes a little deeper than idols maybe, but it's interesting to talk about because there's the whole hashtag movement. If you've ever heard the term telescopic charity, I think that's really at play here. This idea of, hey, there's this big thing going on a long way away that doesn't actually affect me or anyone I know at all. And I'm going to get super invested in it Meanwhile, I have a really bad relationship with my sister or my mom, or I need to be helping the people who are actually my neighbors, because maybe when Jesus says love thy neighbor, he's actually talking about your neighbors, not in some big ethereal sense where he's saying you should donate money to a homeless shelter. Not saying there's anything wrong with that, but maybe you should also think about helping the people who live around you, including your family. Yeah.
Yeah. Something that I think is interesting is like with like flags. So like if you have like family from Ukraine, if you are Ukrainian and you have that flag up, that makes sense because we have American flags up in our homes. Like, I have no problem with that. But what I think is interesting, so I was having a discussion with a college student in my class, and she was talking about, so she's Mormon. No, she is Jehovah's Witness. That's what it is. Yeah, and she said that they don't say the Pledge of Allegiance because of the flag. And because they said the flag is an idol. And I was thinking that's so interesting because flags have become such a common, I'm not saying the American flag, but have become such a common thing to like, everyone has flags outside their house that say all these random things now. And I'm like, your beliefs are all posted on your house, but like, are they the beliefs that like really define you as a person? Like,
I have a possum flag outside my house. This is true. It has a picture of a possum on it. It says, "Stay away from my trash."
And that defines you as a
real,
person.
real classy stuff over there in the Span household.
There's just objects that people, I feel like they use to dictate them as a person.
Yeah,
that was my segue. I'm trying to learn from the best here. So like something that we were talking about earlier was like a lot of people will use like crystals and stuff like that to define them as
crystals and charms.
Great point.
Or even like there's a lot of like trends on like TikTok or whatever, and like there's like people who genuinely call themselves witches and like are into witchcraft, and they're telling you about where you can buy these crystals, and like they have powers, and like this one cleanses the air of all bad vibes, and it cleanses the aura. Like I'm not saying that like different kinds of minerals and gems are bad necessarily, but like you have to be careful about like what kind of power you're attributing to them, like where you're buying them.
Well, that's an idol in a very literal sense. That they're saying
so
is
dangerous.
Like imbued with
powers
not of God.
Yeah.
And we have a word for powers that are not of God, right? That is that's demonic.
Demonic,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. It's like, it's one thing if it's like I have different objects that I have a little box up in my closet where I have like random items that mean things to me, and I kept them there because they mean things to me. And I know people who have different.
Those are called mementos.
Yeah, but I know people who have crystals for like a similar, like it's just something that's always been there throughout their life. That's different. If you like just like how it looks and it fits.
Oh, totally.
That
we're not attacking minerals in geology.
I wanted to make sure. Yeah, but there's a difference
you work in geology. We are against you. No. Not
You
true.
picked up a
We are
stone?
not sponsored by geologists.
Might as well
So you
be
work
the
in
devil.
masonry?
Yeah.
Red flag.
But yeah.
No, that's a great point. And I want to dive into that a little bit. I wasn't actually thinking that literal when I saw that we were doing idols today on the itinerary. But you're right. We can talk
They're
about
making a comeback.
We can talk a lot about idols of like the gym or social media or whatever it is. But we also have, there's this big movement towards whatever they call it. You can call it paganism or witchcraft or Wicca or whatever. And I think we would be remiss if we did not say out loud that that is evil. That is evil and demonic. Yeah. Mackenzie, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's evil.
She was a little too quiet over there, Mackenzie. We were worried.
I don't know. I guess I hadn't realized that, like, the whole crystals thing. Like, I was confused at first when they were coming out, and then I saw, like, there's people on my campus that I see wearing things. And, I mean, sometimes it's like, okay, I don't, like, why else would they be wearing a crystal? I don't want to just assume things.
Right.
But, I mean.
It could just be cute jewelry.
It could just be cute
that.
jewelry. Exactly. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I don't know. I think it's super interesting. And, like, kind of what we were talking about during the break with the whole, like, what is it? The star signs. Star signs. Like,
oh, like zodiac signs.
Yeah. Like, that's the thing. And it's interesting because, like, we were talking about it because it's like, we don't believe that that's true. But it's still something that we, every now and then, like, we talk about, we're like, oh, I'm a Libra, I'm a like this or whatever, but we don't believe it's true. I don't know. I just think that's interesting because.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I definitely know my star sign. I don't think it has anything to do with my personality.
Right.
Yeah.
But I do think, like, one thing I like about it, which also, you know, could be dangerous, but I like that it kind of brings different people together. I like anything where somebody who's completely different from me will be like, wait, you're that? like, let's talk. Like, it creates, like, it breaks down a barrier. So
That's
if I'm
interesting.
talking,
I've never experienced that in the wild.
That goes back to what John Henry was saying about how religion brings us together. Like, we all like yearn for that
Sure.
sense of community, that sense of like togetherness. And so that makes so much sense.
Yeah, it's like human nature. So people grasp onto things. Like when you look back at the beginning of time, people have always like, that's why there's sun gods and like whatever other types. Yeah, exactly. Other types
Pagan
of
gods.
gods, because it's like you have this desire to worship something. Like,
Well, we know that I think this is innately on our heart. Once again, even if you claim you don't believe in God, you don't believe in religion. But I think we have this innate understanding that there is that which exists that is beyond our comprehension, right? And you have this big rise now, and I mean, for the past few decades of I'm not religious, but I am spiritual. Right. And I don't know what that means. I really don't. But I think what that means is I accept in some way that there are things outside of my control and there are things beyond nature.
Yeah.
That supernatural things are. Right. And we're drawn towards that. And when we're not catechized appropriately, when we don't understand our actual place in as human beings, right? But our heart is longing and it has no idea what it's longing for. We start to grab onto all of these things, be it my zodiac sign. Oh, that explains all these supernatural things, or these crystals, or this witchcraft, or whatever. We did the spiritual warfare one a while back, and we got into a lot of that. I thought it was super interesting.
Something I've been thinking about while we were talking. Oh my gosh. I'm just going to hold it. Something I've been thinking about is just when I think about idols, it's like, where do you put your identity? Is your identity in your zodiac sign? Is your identity in the fact that you're in a relationship? Is your identity in your fitness, how you look? Or is your identity in the fact that you are a daughter or son of Jesus Christ?
Right.
Yeah. Are you a follower of Christ, or who are you following? You know, and that's a good segue into following us on Instagram. Our handle is honest2 God _ YA, as in young adult. Which is a long handle. It sounds a little fake, but I promise it's real. Look it up and you can prove
the
me
names
right.
were taken, and whoever took them.
If anybody wants to give us just honest to God, if you own that right now and you want to give it to us, we'll take it. Yeah, we'll take it. We'll even give you a shout out on the show. This show can be sponsored by you at honest to God, which is not our Instagram handle, whoever you
But
are.
we'd like it to be.
So I was gonna say, so I know we've been talking a lot about like, like how like idols are, like the dangers of idols and community and stuff, and like I kind of wanted to go more into like, for people who really do struggle with that, which we all do, is all of those are your attempts to control things. It's like you want, like, you want to be a Virgo because you want to know that that's why this is happening in your life. Or you want a crystal that cleanses bad vibes because you feel like you have all these bad vibes and you don't know how to fix them. So people look to things that are physical because they're tangible and they can hold them and they can feel them.
Right.
And what's crazy is we have that in the Eucharist. And that's something that people like.
That was good. Yes, 100%.
I think, that's definitely like one of the reasons why like Christ gave us something so physical and tangible, is because like being human, we crave that. We search for that. And so I think a lot of times, like you said, people will say I'm spiritual but not religious. I think that goes into two things that I can think of is like, one, they either have unanswered questions, and so they think like, oh, like it's crazy that they think X, Y, or Z because that doesn't seem logical to me, or they've been like hurt by the church or somebody in the church, and so it turns them away from the faith, and they close off and that they shut that down. But like our faith is so beautiful in the sense that it offers everything that our hearts desire, and we go searching for it in all these other places, and we're just not going to find it.
Well, it also offers real, tangible, physical communion with God.
Yeah.
Right? God who literally wants to dwell within us and make us tabernacles of himself. Right? And you look at some of the early heresies and the Gnostics and some of these guys who were talking about how the physical body doesn't really matter and everything. And it's so untrue because Jesus Christ made himself a man, right? He didn't make himself an idol. I mean, right? But he made himself a human being because the physical and the here is good. And we can have that relation with God. You can touch God. You can consume God. What a crazy concept that is. But it's so beautiful, and it really speaks to all those parts of us that are longing for that connection. It's awesome.
Yeah, and something that I think is so important is like yes, it's so good to like, have suffering and grow closer to God, but also God made this earth beautiful for a reason.
Right.
Like, it's not idolatry to go on a hike and see a beautiful sunset. It's not idolatry to enjoy some of the pleasures on earth that God has given us to enjoy. So like, it's important to go out and do those things because God gave them for us to acknowledge.
Well, and I don't want to start a flame war or anything, but going off of what you just said about the physical and the seeing things, and God, it's not idolatry to go look at a beautiful sunset. We as Catholics oftentimes get attacked because of what we call icons, right? But what are often called idols by people who are tearing us down.
Yeah.
We were talking off air a little bit about the iconoclasm controversy and this idea that was, a part of the church for a while. It was a heresy, right? That any physical representation of Christ or the saints or whatever is bad. And I'd love to speak to that a little bit. We don't worship Mary. We don't worship icons. Why do we have them? Mackenzie.
Why do we have icons?
Everyone was pointing at you, so I assumed.
I thought you were pointing at because
I
she's
thought you
Byzantine
pointed-
and has all the icons.
Oh, were you pointing at the actual statue of Mary?
No, I thought Mackenzie might be able to talk on this.
Okay.
Well, you go, Mackenzie.
As to why we have icons?
Because we've discussed
why
it
don't we do
before, and I remember you bringing up some good points.
Do you
So-
remember what those points
you
are?
guys-
Yeah, I mean, this I'm thinking back to like our religion classes and stuff, and like one of the comparisons they gave was like, do you have like pictures of your family like in your wallet? And that's kind of like one of those, or I mean, I don't know, I don't have a wallet, but like you have like pictures of your family
In your
hung
home.
up in your,
In your
or your
home.
friends or whatever. And so we kind of do that in a lot of ways. Like we have these images of saints or Mary or Jesus, and those are like different ways for us to remember like the goodness. They represent things to us. We're not looking at those things and worshiping them, but it's bringing our hearts like to a spiritual, like physically we're still here, but physically we're not worshiping. It's taking us to another place, and we're like mentally
totally.
there.
Well, God is truth and beauty and goodness itself. And so when we see beauty, that reminds us of God, and that like brings us to God. And so when we have those beautiful images, the icons, the statues, it brings God into that. And then also another way you can look at their lives, like you see an icon of a saint or a statue of a saint. We were talking about all these saints that suffered beautifully, and like their life, it reminds you that their life was beautiful. And it was beautiful because it was for God. And that's why we have the statues and icons.
Yeah, so they mentioned about me being Byzantine because our church's icons are everywhere. You can't I'm
That's
pretty sure
beautiful.
you could look in any direction and you would see multiple. So something that growing up, icons were a big thing, and Mom would always say is I'm a 4-year-old tugging on my mom's sleeve because I want to go do something other than sit in the pew, and Mom would be like, oh, look at that saint, what did they do, what life, it was a
Right.
way for you to focus when you can't focus, because she said if you can live if you can try to live through the lives of the saints, it's going to be easier for you to live through your life, because they did so many beautiful things. And something that's crazy is when people do icons, when people paint them or
iconography.
whatever,
Yeah.
they go through a process of fasting.
Yeah,
It's
fasting and prayer.
it's like a rigorous thing for them to do this, and it's the imagery is so important for them to capture these little things because they want it to be something that you see and you want to know the story behind.
Well, and to get biblical for a second, I've heard people make reference and sort of their attacks on the Catholic use of statues and icons and whatnot. They'll quote the Bible of God saying, "You shall not make a graven image," and all of these things, and they always overlook things like when God commands the Israelites to make the Ark of the Covenant and to put the angels on top of it and all of that. But they also overlook
context.
that whole time that God became a physical thing, right? For us, right? And he was a physical thing walking on earth. And once again, to draw it back to, if I had a Polaroid camera and I took a picture of Jesus and I showed it to everybody and looked at it to remind myself of that time I met Jesus walking down the street, right? Nobody would think I was crazy. Of course I would do that. Of course they would want me to do that. What's the difference between that and me putting up a picture of Jesus in my house or me? And I'm the same way. I do everything I can to make my living room a terrifying place if you're a door-to-door evangelist coming by to try to convert me to something. It's like there's so many Jesuses and Marys and saints staring at you the second you walk into my house. I think it's great.
That going back to like what Annie was saying about beauty and goodness drawing us towards God. If you look at any of our tabernacles or especially like monstrances for adoration, like they can be really like detailed and ornate, and it's not because like it's not wasted in any way.
Right.
Like this is God physically present. Like we want to honor him just as you would a king. Like we want to adorn him with beautiful things.
I was in benediction a couple of Fridays ago, and somebody made a comment to me that really stuck with me. We were sitting there, and the way benediction works at my school is our chapel can't fit everybody in there. So we have adoration during the day, and you can go in and spend some time with Jesus. But then Jesus is removed from the adoration chapel to a separate monstrance that's in a big room where everybody can be there for benediction. And so we're sitting there and we're kneeling down before Jesus comes in, before Father Paul brings in Jesus. And the monstrance is there. It's beautiful and ornate and everything. And it's just like dark and empty. There's like no point in it. Mm-hmm. And they were making the point of like, look at the monstrance. Why we would never just sit here and look at it. Like, sure, it's objectively, it's a pretty thing. It's a work of art. But I'm not going to sit here and admire this monstrance. It's only when Jesus is actually in it that it almost, it all but physically illuminates the whole monstrance. And now it becomes, oh my goodness, here's the source and summit of my existence. As opposed to, that's a pretty little gold-plated artwork up there.
Yeah. I was going to talk about Mary, because that's another thing that, Catholics are always typecasted as worshiping. Right. And something like I think is interesting is like when it comes to Mary, it's like, we're talking to her to offer her, like she offers them up to Jesus, what we're saying. And so I was like talking to people about it, and I was like, okay, well, think about it. Like you go to the grave and it's like a super common for people to like go to the grave of a loved one and just talk with them and tell them all these things. And I was just like, okay, well, if you knew somebody right now who literally was pregnant with Jesus and raised Jesus, right, you would not want to be like talking to them and asking them for advice on and just because they were with him for so long, right, such a miracle. That's what we're doing. It's just there's the difference of where she is versus where we are. Right. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was interesting.
That's a really good way to put it.
Talking about Mary, she said, all generations will call me blessed. And I think that's something that a lot of people, I don't want to generalize, but a lot of people, Protestants, they'll only talk about Mary around Christmas time. Right. And they won't give her any type of she's Jesus's mother. So obviously there's that own special title that she has, and that's not connected to her, the fact that she's immaculate. But they just have that specific title. But even then, it's not anything super different from everybody else. Mm-hmm. Right. And so, but she literally said, all generations will call me blessed. And so I think that kind of what we try to do is, obviously just call her blessed. Yeah. Put her where she is supposed to be. Mm-hmm.
Believe Mary when she says what she says in the Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I want to change gears a little bit because we don't have too much time left, and talk about another one that we were getting into a lot off air, going back to sort of the more, the less definable or less those things that we idolize that are not graven images, right? The things that people idolize, and relationships came up a few times before we got back on. What does that look like? How can relationships be an idol, or how can a significant other be an idol? A couple of y'all made great points.
One thing I was going to say that Kenzie mentioned earlier was not, having these things to say, oh, once I get this, or once this happens, once we're engaged, once we're married, then everything will be perfect and fine. Not having those unrealistic expectations, because those can be idols within a relationship. That's the first thing that came to my mind when we were mentioning this.
Yeah, we're going to do an episode coming up on emotional chastity that I'm really excited about. And I think a big part of emotional chastity really comes down to not idolizing this other human being, not having your self-worth tied up in this other human being and their opinion of you. I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with, especially people who aren't strongly rooted in their faith, or even if they're strongly rooted in their faith, they're not confident and strongly rooted enough in their own identity. They don't know who they are. Going back to what you guys said earlier about you are, ontologically speaking, all four of you are princesses of heaven, primarily, right? Ben and myself, princes of heaven up top.
Are they still princesses?
Yeah. No, we get to be princes. And ultimately, it doesn't matter that I'm married. It doesn't matter that I'm a husband, that I'm a father, right? I am still, first and foremost, a child of God.
Yeah.
Hannah.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, there's a reason that people say, like, puppy love and relationships, like, the puppy love moments, because, like, in the first, like, 3 or so months, like, you're just like, oh, he could do no wrong, and, like, we're perfect, and we're gonna get married and have 5 kids, and it's gonna be beautiful. Like, you hear that all the time, and you see that all the time in movies, because what's happening, what I think is happening there, is like you really do idolize that person because you don't see the wrongs, you just see what they're like, how they make you feel, and you're like, oh, this is so great. So I think like it's really important to not hold your significant other to a higher standard because you're idolizing them.
Well, and it comes back to a frequent issue that we deal with in modern society, which is the lie that we are how we feel. When we are not how we feel. And I struggle with that.
Feelings are not the reality.
What's that?
Feelings are not reality.
Absolutely.
Like perception versus reality are very different things.
Right. We all feel things that we should not feel, and we all tie ourselves up in these things. So we live in these human bodies, right, that are drawn towards concupiscence, right? That with concupiscence. But we cannot root ourselves in that. We have to remember, even if we don't feel like certain things are true, truth is not dependent on our feelings. It is true that you are a prince or princess of heaven, regardless of whether or not you feel like one.
Can I just say Catholics have some of the funnest words? Like concupiscence.
Concupiscence.
Tell me that's not just fun to say. Yeah.
Lots of fun words.
Theotokos.
So much good one.
Theotokos, that is a fun one. Yeah. All right, that's awesome, guys. What were you going to say, Ben? Sorry.
John's a fun word.
John?
John.
That feels like one of those words I'm going to say a bunch, and it's just not feeling like it's a real word.
Claim that.
I know. I was gonna say that's
No, we got dibs. We call dibs on John.
They can have James.
Yeah. It is interesting. It is funny to think about how you've got all those wild names in the New Testament, but then you also have like all the names that we still use now because they were in the New Testament.
Yeah.
So Nehemiah's hanging out over there with Timothy. You know?
Their original names were all so different. I was watching a video actually recently. I know we're running out of time, but somebody was like making a TikTok about like how like this is why I deconstructed Christianity. I don't even know what that means, but they were like saying like why they fell away from the faith, and that was why. They're like, are you trying to tell me that John was hanging out with Nehemiah and then it's like somebody responded to them and was like, no, like their original names and like Hebrew, like all these different languages were not John. They had like all they were more they were more like from like that origin, that place, but like we translated the Bible from other languages. That's what happened.
It's just like the people who like came over and like their names were originally like da 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 da, but then they made them, which they did not do with my name. But most names were simplified to something more American.
So we have got we are almost out of time today, and you are a really fun group, so I want to make sure that we do cards. You know what? No, we're going to do popsicle sticks.
Let's do popsicle sticks.
In a long
it's been a
time.
while.
For those of you who are listening, whenever this is released, Ben is still missing about an 18-inch patch of hair on his leg.
Yeah.
So that short will come soon of him shaving the whole thing.
Not going to show it off here.
No, we don't need to show it again.
You can go back an episode or two.
But
wait, no.
Now we're going to...
That can be Jesus-y.
These are not... I swear, there's
Can
like
I have
4 of
a
these.
different
They all just say the same thing. All right.
Only 4.
I'm picking one
Once
for
again,
Ben.
follow
I'm not
us
answering
at
that question.
honest, the number 2, God, _ YA, as in young adult. So we have honest to God _ YA. That's on Instagram.
And while we're plugging things, if you have a topic that you want us to cover, then you can comment on a YouTube video, you can DM us at our Instagram, or you can email us at youngadults, plural, at thequestatlanta.com.
Absolutely. Please do.
Smash that like button.
Smash that like
Smash
button.
that like.
Smash it.
We have multiple
Subscribe
people
down
who
below.
have been on the show.
Turn on that bell for notifications.
We've had multiple guests who are on the show because they reached out to us online. So it's pretty great. Now I picked yours, but I want to find a unique one. We all have
This
unique
is very
ones?
unique.
Yeah, we went through
I have a
all
good
of them. I
one.
picked one I liked.
Good. We're
Yeah,
throwing
we're
these
through a
away.
bunch of
We're done with these. All right, we're gonna start with Mackenzie.
Oh, me. Which one should I choose? I have a whole already.
Annie's
Okay.
gonna pick yours.
Oh, Annie, pick
okay.
it. That scares me.
I think this one would be fun. This is fun.
You do that one. That sounds
Would
fun.
you rather be able to whisper, or only be able to whisper, or only be able to shout everything?
Interesting.
That is difficult. I would probably say only be able to whisper.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a safe
Yeah.
bet.
That's a
It's a
very
safe
Kenzie
bet.
answer.
But then
Yeah.
you just wouldn't be heard in a lot of situations.
Yeah, but microphones are a thing.
Yeah.
That's true.
Like
She could just carry around like
microphone.
a bullhorn.
And like I feel like there are ways I can make myself.
Imagine
You can
it.
still stomp on the floor to get people's attention, or like tap them or something.
Throw
I
a temper tantrum.
She's like,
And
mean,
you
not like give me
yelling.
attention, but like let me say something.
You would get my attention way more by getting really close to me and saying, "Hey," as opposed to shouting at me from across the room.
Not
Yeah,
really
I could do
wanted
that.
attention.
No, I would freak out. It made me super uncomfortable. But
Then
you
I'll
would
do
have
it.
my full attention. Yeah. All right, Annie.
What musical artist is greatly overrated? I'm gonna make some people mad, but
Say it.
Harry Styles. I
Valid.
think he's so overrated. I don't think his music's that good. He's a couple good songs, and I don't think he's that attractive. And I'm
But
just
he
gonna.
wore a dress on that magazine cover.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, I'm not a fan.
In that
I'm just
case-
not a fan, and I know I'm gonna get hated for that because there's a lot of girls my age who love him, and potentially maybe
speaking
even
of
idolize
idols,
him.
yeah.
Oh,
I think he is an idol in our
nice.
society a lot, and
All
not
right,
a fan.
sure. All right, Hannah. We're ready when you are. I called on you because you look the least prepared. To,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I am. That was really.
No, you
that
got
was
it.
really
You're gonna
good.
kill it.
You're gonna. Can you give me like something to make this easier
100%.
or different?
Give it to me,
It's
yeah.
what inscription do you want on your gravestone? I need something that narrows it down.
What? Okay. You can only put 2 words on it. And we're going to assume that you die tomorrow. And we want it to be as mysterious as possible. Go.
Mysterious as possible. I'm trying to think of a name.
Yeah, it can't be somebody else's name. That'd be.
Well, I was gonna say like someone's responsible, but
Oh.
I'm just gonna say someone's responsible.
Fine.
That's a
Find
really
them.
good one, actually.
Someone's
That is
responsible.
mysterious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
That is a really good one. I like that one.
just me? Question mark?
Question mark's not a word, Annie. That doesn't count.
Okay, you said it has to be
Me
two.
question?
Grace.
Question mark? Mark is the one we have to
Question
question.
mark.
Sorry.
Question mark, Peter.
This
Yeah.
episode hasn't been sponsored by anyone yet, so it is now sponsored by all marks.
All marked. If
So
you're out there.
if your name is Mark, please comment down below.
Shout out to Mary's Mark.
We will. Yeah, I was gonna say marks, particularly marks with a K, though.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna stick with the
Oh,
non
not Mark with a C.
non
Not Mark
Franco,
with a C.
Not
Yeah,
your
non-Francophile
Marcus. Would you rather sell all of your possessions or just one of your organs? I got like 2 kidneys, so
No, let's switch up. Would you rather
Okay.
sell all of your organs or one of your possessions?
probably.
No, you don't die. You don't die. You just end up like a head in a jar, like on Futurama.
That's so easy.
So that's
though.
kind of fun, but
One position.
I am gonna have to say that my body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. I'm gonna sell an item. I'll sell my most prized possession. I don't even know what it is, but I would rather do that than lose organs.
What if it were an eye?
My eye.
You said sell one eye or your most prized possession. You don't have like something you
Oh.
inherited from your great grandmother with all this like sentimental value.
I would get rid of it.
Grace is
You like
very
your eyes?
unattached.
Not very attached to many things.
Yeah.
Not even your eyes.
Well, my eyes, I am, yes. They're physically
She's
attached to me,
physically
John Henry.
attached.
That's fair. All right, mine's an easy one, but somehow nobody's ever drawn it before, so I was going to do it. Would you rather be a famous director or famous actor? Easy. I would rather be a famous director. That way nobody knows who I am, and I still get to be rich. Everybody's always like, I want to be rich and
Yeah.
famous. Not me. I've never wanted to be rich and famous. I want to be rich.
You're gonna
That
direct the
sounds
honest to
great.
God
Idolize-
movie
When
coming to theaters this February.
this
In
February,
theaters near you.
we're 4,000 theaters nationwide. Check us out. Honest to God movie. It's just this.
I love how we're like never honest, actually.
Who said that wasn't honest? I can make a
All
movie
of
and
our
put it
bits
out.
are not honest.
We could totally put out a movie. We should do that.
That'd
All
be
right.
fun.
We could at least make a trailer on
Yeah.
iMovie.
That's idolizing money.
In a world.
Which we
All
didn't
right,
talk about.
Ben.
All right, mine, John Henry selected, so you know it's cream of the crop in questions. Would you rather be a cow or a chicken?
It's so easy.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's
Why
so
is that?
easy.
Why is that an easy question,
Cow. Obviously, cow.
You're gonna become a
So
bird.
unbiased for him.
Annie? Okay.
So sorry.
I want to say chicken.
You're in a subway station. That's a caveat.
Like,
You
like
appear
a train,
right now.
like
Yes.
subway
Yeah,
train.
not a subway restaurant.
Okay.
like the Marta.
Would you eat chicken or
A chicken. Yeah.
You'd rather be a
definitely.
chicken?
I'd rather be
Cow.
a chicken because
Cow.
chickens can like flutter.
flutter?
Like,
Okay.
They can't even fly.
have you ever seen like how funny a chicken's run is?
Yeah, I have.
They're pretty great. I used to
Definitely.
raise chickens. We had this like really fat hen that like whenever she ran, she'd like wobble side to side, like her entire body weight.
That's
was
who Ben
shift.
wants to be.
You farm sat for me one time and took care of all my chickens.
I
didn't you?
did,
I, had
uh-huh.
I think I had about 100 chickens then, didn't I?
I had
They
a
all
lot of
survived?
chickens.
Oh my
Chickens.
goodness.
Yeah,
I didn't
so.
kill any of them.
Not
I
a
almost
single
killed
I
your
one?
wanted
dog.
to.
Oh, he's fine. Jeff's doing great right now.
I'm so glad for Jeff.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, with that, we're gonna end the show. We are well over time. Big shout out to all of our listeners, especially if your name is Mark. Thanks
K.
for watching. Thanks for listening. This is AM 1160, The Quest, Atlanta's Catholic Radio. You are listening to Honest to God. Producer Ben,
Signing off.
over and out.